Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining Boulder Universal's virtual open house for the 2021-2022 school year. We're excited to tell you about Boulder Universal, what it entails, expectations, policies, and what makes our school special and unique. One thing we think that's important at BU is we want every student to have their individual education that best fits them. There are a lot of great options out there within BVSD. Boulder Universal is the online option for Boulder Universal or for Boulder School District. I just wanted to let everyone know what we're about so everyone can just make the best decisions that's for their best situation for their student. So I wanted to go ahead and get started. I'm Eric Maroy. I'm the principal at Boulder Universal. I mostly oversee grades 6 through 8, and our assistant principal, Chris Kim, oversees grades K through 7 as our primary responsibilities. Our email addresses are down there at the bottom of the PowerPoint, so feel free to reach out to us based on the grade level of your student. Support staff that you will be in contact with if you come to Boulder Universal or if you have questions about Boulder Universal as well. We have our office manager, Tatiana Marmolia. A number is there, speaks Spanish and Portuguese. And then Julie Robbins, our registrar, who you'll be in contact with through the enrollment process as well. And again, her contact information is available. We're a K through 12 school, and we have very similar roles for our counselors as any K through 12. Ms. Crams, Tara, works through grades kindergarten through 7th, and Kelly works grades 8 through 12. So Kelly and myself tend to team up, and Chris and Tara team up for grades K through 7. One thing that is different at Boulder Universal that you won't see at a brick and mortar school is we have mentors at the secondary level as well. We have Lisa Holmes and Julie Graff. Both Lisa and Julie, what their main responsibility is they're the first main point of contact for students. Because we don't have eyes and ears on students in a traditional setting, we have our eyes and ears on students in an online setting, and Lisa and Julie are the ones who help ensure students are connected, engaged. If there's tech issues, tech questions, Julie and Lisa are the main go-to for those types of questions. They're also a huge mental health and social emotional support for students at the school as well as a major part of their job and responsibilities. All right, so let's go and get started talking about Boulder Universal and what Boulder Universal looks like. There are literally hundreds of different options and formats for online schools out there. I want to tell you specifically how Boulder Universal is structured to make sure it's the right fit for you and your family. We're a fully asynchronous school, which means all direct instruction is embedded in the course content. All of our course content is found on Schoology, and the direct instruction, the learning aspect of that is in Schoology. Then students do their work in Schoology as well. So asynchronous means basically there is not live teaching, and it's self-paced. We'll get into that a little bit more about what self-paced looks like at Boulder Universal, but we are asynchronous with students having flexibility within their schedule to do the work when they see fit. There isn't a bell schedule or a set day or time that classes meet. Since we are a BVSD funded school, we do follow the BVSD calendar. So whatever days off students have in brick and mortar, Boulder Universal has those same days off as well. We're on a semester system. So we have first semester start for the first day of school, then we go to mid-December, have 2 weeks off for the winter holidays, and we start back up in January and end in May. So no different than any other school in Boulder Valley. The one nice thing I really like about Boulder Universal is all of our teachers are BVSD employees. They work for BVSD. They are BU teachers. We don't farm out our curriculum or our teachers to teach courses. They're hired by us just like any other teacher in the district. And our teachers have also written our curriculum and store it and utilize Schoology for the implementation of our curriculum. And that's unusual compared to some online where they will buy content from third-party vendors and then have their teachers teach the third-party content. We've written all of our curriculum. It's aligned to BVSD standards, and it has the rigor and expectations of Boulder Valley School college preparatory coursework. Again, because we're asynchronous, there's flexibility. We have weekly deadlines, which is an ongoing theme that you'll hear a few times in this presentation, where students do have flexibility to get their schoolwork done within a given week. But at the end of the week, all assignments are due at the deadline. So most students will have 5 to 6 classes, depending on grade level, and they will do all their work. They can do it when they want within the week. They can format it. They can create their own schedule, but it is all due at the end of the week, and that is a hard deadline when that work is due. We are also what's called a multi-district school. So what that means is if anyone who is a resident in the state of Colorado can attend Boulder Universal. So that includes BVSD and beyond our attendance boundaries throughout the entire state. All right, some general policies to be made aware of. There's obviously more than 3 policies at a school, but these are the kind of 3 big ones to be made aware of. The link to the BU handbook, which is just a link to our website where the handbook is stored. You can look at more details, but I want to go over the major ones. Attendance. So there is attendance policy because we are a public school. We are guided by the Colorado Department of Education, and we have an attendance policy. And basically, in an online school, the way attendance works is attendance is really based on completion of student work. So if a student completes the work, an assignment, that counts as their attendance. If they don't complete an assignment successfully, then that's counted as an absence. So really, because we're asynchronous and students can work at their own pace within the given weekly deadline, that attendance is therefore not taken because you're in a seat watching a teacher in a live session. Attendance is taken through the successful completion of your work. So again, weekly deadlines are on Mondays at 8 o'clock, have 7 days to complete it. Again, work at own pace, but need to have it completed. And that's a big part of what our mentors will do is help students create a schedule before school starts of what works for them. Some students like to do all their classes in a day, a portion of all their classes in a day, just like they would in a traditional brick and mortar school. Or some students like to chunk it, where on Mondays they do all their math, Tuesdays they do their LA, and so on, and then they're done at the end of the week. So different ways to do it, which is nice about the flexibility of asynchronous school. But students get to choose that on what works best for them. Release of content. So in an asynchronous school, the content is available and students can work at their own pace. They can work ahead as well. What we do at Boulder Universal, because we believe in the cycle of teaching and learning, that we release content 2 weeks in advance. And there's always exceptions to the rule on this. There are some courses we release all 16 weeks of a semester on the first day of school, and students can work ahead. And then there's some we release at 2 weeks at a time. And that's because if a student works too far ahead and we find out they struggle with something, it's really hard to get them back and to reteach some of the concepts that they've worked ahead on. So we do release most courses 2 weeks at a time so students can work ahead. So these are some major policies. Again, the BU handbook will have all the policies that you need to be made aware of. Students, what to expect at Boulder Universal. Workload. This is probably the number one question that students have in online. Plan on 1 hour per day per course. So if you take 6 courses, plan on doing schoolwork 6 hours a day. Not all of that will be in front of the computer, but a good portion of it will be. For example, your language arts class, you're going to read novels. And you're going to read a novel in Boulder Universal as you would in a BVSD brick and mortar school. And that's, again, the nice thing about Boulder Universal is it's the same content as any other school. We have the same expectations, and we have to meet the same standards as any other school in Boulder Valley. So plan on about 1 hour per day per course. Students know online courses, and this is pretty much no matter where you're going to go, is going to be reading and writing heavy compared to a brick and mortar. It's the main way, it's not the only way, but it's the main way to deliver content is through some sort of reading and writing prompts. Two biggest skills for an online student. Doesn't mean you have to have perfect skills on your first day of school, but by the time you go through Boulder Universal, these are skills that successful students are going to leave Boulder Universal with. One is self-advocacy. Because it's self-paced, if there's a time you don't understand something, that's where you're going to have to reach out to your mentor or your classroom teacher. Without doing that, because teachers don't see you on a day-to-day basis, students have to reach out if you're struggling with something. Just again, a level of independence. If you're a self-starter, you are task-oriented, and you can look at a list of things that need to be accomplished at the end of the week, and if you can check all those off, then you're in great shape and will be very successful at Boulder Universal. Again, it's real important for us to emphasize we're educators, and we understand that not every student has this exact skill on the first day of school. But if students are willing to learn these skills, then students are very successful at Boulder Universal. Mentioned this earlier. Another key component to being a successful online student is scheduling. Is create a schedule, and most important is stick to that schedule. Students that do that, 90% of them, that's 90% of winning the battle of school, is create a schedule and stick to it. Our mentors before school starts will give many, many tips and advice on options and the best way to do that. Rigor. Course rigor at Boulder Universal is what you would expect at any other BVSD school. If you write a 5-paragraph essay for your language arts class, you will write basically the same 5-paragraph essay at Boulder Universal. If you have a science lab in, say, biology class, you will have a lab in BU's biology class as well. It may look different because that lab may be at home. There's also options to do it in our BU lab, which we'll get into in a minute. But again, expectations and rigor mirror the brick and mortar schools in the district. Parents, what can you expect as a parent of an online student? Number one is you're there to support your student. You'll be home, or you may be home, your student will be home, and you may see them doing work, unlike in a brick and mortar where you don't really see that day-to-day interaction with the students and the curriculum and teachers. One thing, and probably the most important thing you can do, is on a consistent basis, check grades. I wouldn't do it every day. I think that's a little bit overkill, but on a routine schedule, check your students' grades and make sure they're staying up, because if a student misses the deadlines, again, it's a hard deadline, students cannot hand in work after the deadline. So checking those grades on a weekly basis is extremely important. The way Schoology works, you will also see that a student has submitted their work. There's a little green check mark that is in Schoology, and you'll see that they submitted it. Parents, I suggest you look for that green check mark, but I also suggest you look at the assignment itself to make sure it was done and completed properly, and not just maybe a blank submission or the wrong assignment was submitted electronically. Parents, know in an online world there is a learning curve. Most students are trained in the brick and mortar system, and obviously we're a little different in our learning style. So there does tend to be a learning curve. So just know that, and also know and trust the mentors, your teachers, that a very large majority of students get through the learning curve just fine. And at the end of the learning curve, they've developed some additional skills that they may not have gotten in the brick and mortar school, specifically that self-advocacy piece that is grown, and that level of independence has grown as well. So just know that there is a learning curve. We kind of say 2 to 5 weeks-ish, depending on age of kid and level of development of a student on that learning curve. What do you need at Boulder Universal? You need a personal computer. Laptop is obviously fine. Tablets are strongly encouraged. No on the tablets. The functionality just does not work well. One with Schoology and some of the assignments that are needed. So definitely not that. Need consistent Wi-Fi or internet access, and then a printer and a scanner is very helpful as well. Student support. So yes, we are asynchronous, where yes, it is mostly self-paced and students are on their own and all the instruction is embedded within our courses. All that being said, there are levels of student support at BU that honestly are not at all asynchronous schools throughout the state. One, every student has a counselor, just like they would at a brick and mortar school. Very traditional counselor roles where they provide some social emotional support, work with schedules. At the secondary level, do a lot of planning to make sure career and college goals are met and taking the appropriate courses to reach those goals. Also, again, have a mentor that we talked about, mentor role that all students will have access to. We do support most IEPs and 504s. With an IEP, we do look at the IEP just to make sure we can offer the programming. If a student has resource level IEP needs, we generally can meet those needs. We always have a conversation with parents because IEPs do look different at Boulder Universal than they do at a brick and mortar. We can support them. We just have to support in different ways than a brick and mortar. So there needs to sometimes be adjustments to an IEP, but more than willing to have those conversations. And definitely students with IEPs have a large level of success at Boulder Universal. We have an in-person lab. During COVID, it is closed. We are very hopeful. It's a big part of our programming at Boulder Universal that we have an in-person lab. On any given day, there are minimum 3 teachers in there. I'm sorry, 2 teachers and 1 mentor at a minimum are there on a daily basis. Prior to COVID, the top number of students that would be in there would be maybe 25 to 30, but that there's a ratio of definitely 3 teachers in there at a minimum, and that's a high number as well. Again, it's Monday through Fridays, 9 to 3 that it's open, so 6 hours a day. And again, there's teacher support, and we rotate subject area teachers in the lab. So a student always has at least one opportunity per week to meet with their teacher. It's usually in a one-on-one situation or a small group situation. Just want to show some pictures of what our learning space looks like. Our learning space is actually 4 different rooms that holds about 30 total students. The top left picture you're looking at, that's what we refer to as our mindfulness room. It's a smaller, quiet environment where individual students can go and work. We do call it a lab, and realistically, it's more like an open house, more like coffee shop environment. And students, they can come and go as they need. The bottom picture there is our new science lab. So again, you can come in and do science experiments. Those are usually on Wednesday with our science teacher. And same with the top right corner, just another vantage point of our science lab. A couple more pictures, bottom left. Again, that's taken in our lab, but then looks out into our main lab, which is our main study area and support area for students. And same with the bottom right, the main picture of our lab looking into the science classroom. The middle picture is what we refer to as a writer's workshop, room where students can get work done individually with a teacher or work in small groups. So open enrollment is open from November 1st to January 6th of this year. Sometime in early November, all families will get notification of acceptance into their school of choice. You have approximately 3 days to decline if you choose not to go to school you applied for. And I tell you that because when a family open enrolls, there's a window of 3 days from notification to decline. Otherwise, the student automatically rolls over into the school of choice, and enrollment does that automatically. There's no need for you to fill out any forms. It happens through our automated computer systems. And I bring that up because once that rollover happens, Boulder Universal becomes your new home school. And that is your home school until the following year where you can choose a open enroll to another school, or you remain at Boulder Universal. And that's for K-12. So at any grade level, a student that open enrolls, BU will be your school until a student graduates, unless a student opts to open enroll into another school setting. I want to go over just some general myths about online learning. And this is where some hiccups come in with occasionally with students coming in. And again, we want to just make sure that everyone has the right learning environment that's important for them. So that's why it's important to go over some of these myths. One, online school is easier than brick and mortar. That is a myth. And realistically, there are going to be a handful of students who say online is harder because of that learning curve that they're going to be introduced to at the beginning of the school year. It's not easier. We have the same expectations and rigor of any other school. We are a college preparatory school, so if you graduate from BU, you have a wide range of options, career options, and collegiate options from graduating from BU. We are what I would consider an alternate school setting. We're not an alternative school. Alternative school would be for students that may be at risk of dropping out. And realistically, that's just not what BU is, because we have the college preparatory track for students, and students who attend BU are prepared to go on to college if they so desire. So we're not an alternative school. That is a designation made by the Colorado Department of Education. Certain schools have requirements to be an alternative school, and that is nothing what BU is. Another myth of online learning is, I have plenty of time to get my work done. This is a trap that if students fall into, likely they're going to fall behind in the school. 1 hour per day per course, approximately 6 hours a day, is needed. So just keep that in mind. Students who sleep in, don't start school until the afternoon, they're the ones who tend to start school with 2 strikes against them, and tend to run into some issues. Our suggestion, and our mentors will mention this over and over, is the best thing you can do is start school at the same time every day, just like you did in a brick and mortar. So something along the lines of sometime in the morning. Do you have the flexibility to sleep in a little bit later? Absolutely. Just know on the back end, you're going to be working a little bit later as well. Other items to know. So these are some kind of miscellaneous things. Again, we talked about the learning curve. 2 to 5 weeks is on average. I bring up the state performance framework. This is a framework that the state of Colorado has, and it's basically a grade of every school in the state of Colorado. It's out of 100 points. Out of all the multi-district schools in the state of Colorado, Boulder Universal's state performance framework is the highest. So we have the highest grade of all the multi-district schools in the state of Colorado. So very proud of my staff. They work extremely hard to make those kind of recognitions possible. There's a recent publication that came out from Niche, where we were voted the 4th top online school in the state of Colorado. I believe there were 51 total online schools that were rated, and we were 4th on that list. Nice thing is, if you do attend Boulder Universal, we do have some clubs that we offer. Obviously, we don't offer any Colorado high school athletic sports, but you can go to your home attendance area school and still play CHSAA-sanctioned sports. Definitely reach out to the athletic director for more information on that of your home attendance school. You can also attend other Boulder Valley High School activities. If you want to do band, theater, speech and debate, and there's many more, there are options to do that in Boulder Valley. So keep that in mind as well. You would just, again, need to talk to the activities director at those sites. One thing that I did not put on the PowerPoint that I want to mention is the one thing why I love Boulder Universal, and the staff is fully committed to this idea of school life balance. And that's a nice thing. Just the natural format of online school allows for that level of balance to happen and have control over the balance in one's life. That being said, our staff, it's a part of the foundational piece of the school, the foundational piece of who our staff are as individuals, and it's something that we strongly believe in supporting students' life and the balance that is necessary for each student. So just wanted to emphasize that as we wrap up this short uh, explanation of Boulder Universal, that is such a key foundational piece of our school. That social emotional well-being, we are going to support students with that, and that's where our mentors come in, and they're going to be the first steps and the first contact for students to make sure that they're mentally healthy and academically challenged as well. And then lastly, attached is our BU website. A lot of this information that I've gone over is on there. There's a lot of other stuff as well, as far as like course schedules that would be helpful. So I encourage you to take a few minutes to peruse around the BU website. And so we will end there. That's the building at 66 in Arapahoe, and where our lab is. As well. So just want to say thank you guys so much for listening. Some of you guys are probably listening to this online. Reach out to any of us if you have questions, and we would love to see your student at Boulder Universal, and good luck in the search for your school for the 2021-2022 school year. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.